Designing a product in itself is a challenge. There are many steps that we take at Hatch-22 to ensure a successful product launch. But with the global pandemic that has clouded 2020, we have seen shifts in the way we interact with our clients.
And even our own team. With design and product development being such a hands-on process, how do we maintain social distancing protocols and essentially do the job without being completely hands-on? We want to show you how our small yet mighty team of designers and engineers get it done.
Join us for an inside look at our design process and see how we overcame the struggles of designing during a global pandemic. This is Hatch-22. Previously on Hatch-22.
The thing that struck me the most in the beginning ended up being the choice I wanted to go with. And that was UA2, the underarm concept.
So what we're going to do next is take this concept and do micro iterations on it.
We're deciding to give Rubbish phase 3, 3 different concepts for them to choose from. So we already know that we're doing kind of an underarm volume architecture concept, but within that we wanted to do some micro exploration as well, just to kind of get a better, litmus test of the look and feel.
After choosing one configuration from phase 2, during phase 3, we took a deeper dive into this underarm configuration. Because this configuration wasn't found in any of the existing trash picker uppers, we had to challenge ourselves to quickly prototype this experience using what was available to us. We took apart existing picker upper and Frankensteined it to validate the ergonomics of the configuration. We mocked up different angles and positions of the handle, positions of the D-pad controller, location of the phone mount, and even added bulk clay to test weight distribution. Based on the findings of this mock-up, we had another session of ideation, this time only with much more consideration on the internal components and details such as material choices, lighting positions, charging port location, interaction points, and so on. Now, this process was extremely important to us because this is the last stage of narrowing down our concepts. Once we choose a direction here, there's no going back, which means we put as much effort as possible to validate the questions and hypotheses we've been setting.
Refine a little bit more than this, but with shelter in place, this is kind of what we had on hand. So we were able to essentially actually weight this modeling clay and match it to the electronics enclosure.
Oh, cool.
So this is like legitimate, roughly the same weight behind the hand. The handle is literally just like rolled up paper with tape wrapped all around it, right? But so imagine this grip maybe comes up and then has a little bit of geometry that comes out this way, right? So something like that.
The Rubbish team picked this concept. Very excited about it. I think we're gonna have a lot of fun coming up with some spin-off ideas from this starting point. So that's what the team will be doing. We're going to be sketching first, getting back to the sketching board, and then once we find a few directions that we like, we'll 3D model them. We'll refine them a bit more than this round. This was definitely more of a SketchCAD, and then for the next round we're going to try to refine those, make them a lot more realistic, which will also facilitate a smoother handoff for the engineering team as well. So that's what we're going to do, and we're going to have a lot of fun. It's going to be a great time, so we'll see what shakes out.
So I think in line with that, I feel like what Peter is doing with these is working, or you can try something like this with a lit bottom, right, with kind of highlighting that offset. That could be fun. but maybe from the side view, right? Like, let's see, the side view, you can just kind of cut it, right? From like following this curve of the handle, and then you cut it and light the bottom, right?
Right.
Something like that. So yeah, in terms of like something close to what they've already seen, I think what Peter has going in the top here is working pretty well.
Okay.
With all these, we kind of wanted to have a very fun kind of play, toy-like experience, and so a lot of us were kind of joking around and saying, you know, this could be really cool if this was like a lightsaber, and so we all kind of wanted to pipe the long end of the beam so that you know, it would look like this pink lightsaber. So all the concepts have that.
And what we ended up with is 3 more concepts to show you. So the very first one is a very kind of straight representation of the original concept, just fleshed out with more detail, right? So we still have kind of that diagonal, you know, cut line that goes straight through the whole device that kind of separates the handle from the electronics housing mass. And then, you know, we added in the details of the plus pad, the trigger, and, you know, logos. It's kind of a cool continuous sweep, especially from the side view. You see, like, all the way from the handle, it kind of cuts down and then curves across that body.
Again, you know, we don't want to pigeonhole anyone, so we didn't want to do 3 different versions that all had that same kind of formula of sophistication, you know, and fun. So we showed a range, right, a gamut of different ideas.
This was a lot of fun, actually. So this one, we took kind of a different direction, right? We took that original concept and we skewed it a bit, right? So we ventured away from that kind of diagonal slash all the way through that separated the 2 bodies, and instead we took that electronics housing, we made it more kind of bubbly and you know, pillowy, and we smashed it into the handle, basically. All right, so this kind of bubbly form kind of hugs that handle in this concept. And that was something that we thought would be a lot of fun. Concept here, again, we're pushing that original concept to its limit, right? So this one maybe doesn't look anything like the original concept, but we had a lot of fun with this one. So here, we're taking these curves and making these curves a lot more continuous, where the original concept had, you know, splits and 2 very distinct bodies kind of intersecting. Here, we're trying to see what we could do with keeping one curve flowing all the way through. And that kind of plays into that playfulness, right? Because we have sweeping curves and nice round shapes.
So we had a ton of fun. You know, there's a lot of fun stuff that we got to try and experiment with. And we're happy with all 3 results, honestly. Whichever one we end up developing through to the end is going to be, it's going to be a winner.
The one you know, I think is fun is you know, concept B, but it's probably not one that I want to pursue per se, just because I know there's a lot of risk in terms of the lighting. Like, I've done projects in the past with transparency where I think there's just a lot of things we have to tune, and with this aggressive timeline that we're working with, I think concept A or concept C would be a better choice. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the concepts thus far. I think the team's done a great job on bringing this all together to the vision we have here. So yeah, I hope Rubbish likes it as well.
Everyone has this concepts thing pulled up.
Yeah.
Do we want to just like go through and kind of just like a super quick 1-minute refresher on the concepts?
Our first reactions when we saw the first design, even just concept A, we were like, whoa. Some of the stuff looks really sleek, really cool. Very happy with the direction that it's going.
Yeah, I think this is the one like from the get-go that I like the most, I remember during the meeting, I commented that I really like, I don't know what it was about it, but I liked the junction between where the foam mount is and where the stem comes up. I think that's really good. I think for whatever reason, I like this one the most out of the three concepts that we were shown, at least in terms of like the vertical grabber portion and like what's underneath. Okay, so concept B. I think this one I like.
And honestly, it reminds me the most of like a Wii controller, or
The top
like
part.
Wii aesthetic. But I want to like it more, but I'm not loving the bubble.
I feel like when we first saw these, this one was my favorite, but when I came back to it, I similarly like something just doesn't jive and something feels off with that like little guy. Like he's like a little too little, a little too gloss, like it's very glossy for some reason. But overall, I think that like concept A, out of these two, like I think concept A is better. But Felipe, I would agree with you. Like I like this D-pad more.
I have a hunch that we're probably gonna go with the first design. We just really like that kind of lightsaber, futuristic vibe that it gives off.
Concept C, these are my thoughts. I didn't love this one. I felt like there was, for me, like too much of a combination of like half a circle with that ladle, with like a smoking pipe and a car.
I think the hardest part of phase 3 is having to choose just one design out of 3 great designs. In fact, we actually kind of asked Hatch-22 to incorporate elements of our 2 favorite designs to for the final one to explore.
So like in this meeting here, basically Peter and I are talking about the refined design of the handle right now, and I think it's at a decent spot, but there are some things in the proportion that I wanted him to consider, and so things like edge detail from the top to all the way through the end cap of the grabber. Like I was thinking there are some opportunities to kind of have some unified edge transition. So I was thinking even that top edge from the very top could be chamfered or gloss edged in such a way so that it'd be a little more shiny than the rest of the handle. And it's these little like detail texture decisions that really help to add sophistication to the design, but also just like some little visual delights, right? So that's part of the reason that I'm looking at it in that way.
It's a famous saying in the industrial design field that says we should always work with what we have. I've been using clay a lot because it's easy to get and it's easy to work with. Just like that, designers are trained to work with what we have. So in that sense, it hasn't been as difficult. I also have a 3D printer that is sitting in my room. It has helped me to be efficient in making these prototypes. But COVID definitely has made it difficult in collaborating with the teammates. It is important to have as many samples on a design to be inclusive, especially when it comes to ergonomics. And there has been some drawbacks because we can't really share what I've made or what other teammates have made, and not being able to share those prototypes and have other people touch it, feel it, and get their feedbacks on it. There has been some difficulties for sure.
So one issue that was identified by the rubbish team a bit earlier on actually is our initial concepts that we showed tried to incorporate the phone holder, the phone mount, into the handle, right? We tried to make that kind of a unibody form, all one unit, just trying to simplify the aesthetic and the experience for the user, just trying to, get everything into one consistent package. And if you think about this whole product, right, you have this very long beam, it's very long in one direction, and then you have a handle that stretches it a second dimension, right, that Z height. And then if you add even more to that, basically what you end up with is this big rectangular package with nothing, mostly air in it. It's a lot of wasted packaging, which is not good, especially for a company that's trying to clean up litter and be a good impact on the environment. You don't want to be shipping a bunch of, like filler paper, or just empty boxes. So their concern here was, how can we reduce that package size as much as possible so that they aren't shipping so much dead space, or packaging material or filler. They definitely don't want to have like massive amounts of styrofoam or something in there, right? Because that's very much counter to their whole brand identity.
For this meeting, we actually sprinted through some updates from the feedback that Felipe gave us.
So what we did for this design is actually just provided a spot on top of the handle, a little notch cut out for a specific phone mount that we can find off the shelf. So it can be incorporated into the handle without being part of the handle.
Okay, so in response to the ergonomic concerns, we did kind of quickly sprint through a 3D print just to get a feel for it, experimented. So our recommendation is that this cross section for the handle can work, and we think that it'll be comfortable, it'll be just fine. But like I said, we're totally happy to hand this off to you if you'd like to hold it in hand and feel it out for yourself.
So, the stuff that Blake and the team came back with was kind of a mix of concept A and C a bit that I got my hands on one. Peter delivered it and, felt pretty good. It looks pretty cool too. I think it'll be interesting to see how that changes as kind of the mechanical engineering team from Hatch-22 gets involved.
Aesthetically, we did apply some quick tweaks to this model. One, Felipe had mentioned that you had a preference for just the simple plus kind of form factor for the D-pad rather than the circle, full circle D-pad. So we went ahead and made that change. Now that you're seeing it, I'm curious if that still kind of resonates, that feedback, or if you feel, after seeing it, maybe if the circle makes more sense to you.
I'm on Team Circle. I think even aesthetics aside, I think it's more functional.
Yeah.
I'm on team, what is the easier part to get?
That's actually definitely a good question, and whatever we do now and render, it very possibly could get overridden later in production. So we're showing it to you in this way. This is kind of our ideal form here. But when our engineering team starts to design the inside, we're going to let them kind of decide how to make this trigger do what it needs to do.
I think my biggest concern at the moment is still the trigger. And the mechanisms for how that will look. I think lean on the side of keeping things as simple as possible and not overcomplicating, to the best of my ability.
Other design details, we did refine some forms and we tweaked some curves and proportions a little bit since last time you saw it, but hopefully it's actually all fairly subtle. I don't think it changed the concept much. But yeah, so we just wanted to run, those couple kind of key areas by you.
I think now that we have a form factor that we like, looks cool, and we think can really appeal to a lot of people, we really have to hone in on making it, seeing if it works, and we could fit all the components into that form factor. But also something that's very important is making it accessible, so that people of all different sizes and ages could use this. Accessibility is something that we definitely focus on in the app, and we think is going to be very important in our hardware as well. We want as many people as possible to be able to enjoy cleaning up litter, improving their neighborhood. So accessibility is something that we'll be definitely looking at.
Okay, so the Rubbish team has made their selection. They picked our more refined version of the underarm concept. And we're excited to move forward with that one. That will be fun to develop, fun to see made real. The next phase of development for us in this project will be the kind of engineering of this design. So the industrial design is essentially done, for like the heavy lifting at least is over, and now we're going to hand off to our mechanical engineering team, and they will pick it up from here.
Now things are in Emmy's hands, in my team's hands, and this is the phase of work where things starts to get real. We're likely going to build and validate, but before that, we're going to put together some ideas, put our heads together, and figure out how this is going to work.